and we have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Welcome to Gay USA. I'm Andy Hum.
I'm Ann Northrup, and as Larry Kramer just said, we must escalate the noise we make so we will be heard.
Because Trump is conducting an all-out attack on LGBTQ humanity and issues in schools and throughout the federal government. We're the targets.
Yes. We're not the only targets, but we're certainly main targets. Hospitals in blue states, who we've counted on for years, are caving into Trump and terminating gender-affirming care for trans people under 19. Protests are ensuing, but the New York Attorney General is telling hospitals in New York not to comply.
The CDC is removing data on LGBTQ health, racial disparities, climate change, STIs, and more. And researchers are desperately trying to save that data before it goes away.
Well, this now feels like it was a month ago, but Trump is blaming the D.C. air crash on DEI and Pete Buttigieg, taking no responsibility for his firing of air safety officials beforehand.
Trump forbids federal agencies from observing everything from Black, Asian, Hispanic, and Women's History Months to LGBTQ and Disability Pride.
The Department of Justice's LGBT group of employees disbanded itself in the wake of Trump orders, a move that may not have been necessary at all.
And others are holding the line. Unelected co-president, or maybe just President Elon Musk, and his henchmen just gained access to your personal financial information and shut down U.S. aid to disaster areas worldwide. The coup is well underway.
Well, that was so yesterday, Andy. And we're beyond that now. Democratic Senator Ben Schatz is vowing to hold up State Department nominees until USAID is restored.
Let's hope so. But a court has blocked the transfer of a trans woman federal inmate to a men's prison.
And several others, actually. Champion figure skater, in case you thought there wasn't any other news in the world, champion figure skater Dick Button has died at 95.
And Episcopal Reverend Robert Cromie, a pre-Stonewall ally, dies at 93 in San Francisco.
Out Chappell Roan won Best New Artist at the Grammy Awards.
And Karla Sofia Gascon's Oscar hopes basically have evaporated in the wake of exposure of her racist tweets.
Really, really sad.
Ugly.
Yeah.
All right. So, well, you know.
We have a friend who summed up what's going on.
So the CIA is gone.
Yeah.
And Tulsi Gabbard is going to run this thing, I assume, like the Stasi in East Germany. The Health Department is gone, now led by RFK Jr., who doesn't know the difference between Medicaid and Medicare. We in a heap of trouble.
Look, when Pam Bondi looks like the sane one in the room, and she is not.
Right.
Let's not be confused about that. Do not pin your hopes on Pam Bondi. But people are just doing whatever they can at this moment to respond. We have a friend, Jessica Robinson, who was playing around with some AI and came up with an image that we thought summed up a lot of this. There it is, everything in flames, the Bill of Rights, the rainbow flag. This is sort of downtown New York these days, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Jessica.
And the thing is, we are prime targets in a way, of course, immigrants and race and everything else. But in trying to close all these departments, the words they're looking for are LGBTQ and, you know, gender stuff and all those kinds of things. So, you know, look, the Trump administration has notified public schools at every level they won't enforce Biden administration's revised interpretation of Title IX, which included protection for LGBTQ students. That was expected, but there it is. And they're actually investigating the Denver schools after one of them converted a girls' restroom to an all-gender restroom. I mean, come on.
There are girls' restrooms on other floors. They just needed something. Well, here, they've new executive order in the education department. No federal funds to schools that promote critical race theory. And what did they base this on? A white kid being made to feel bad because kids of color have been discriminated against.
Well, employees at all federal agencies were ordered to remove their pronouns from their email signatures by last Friday. And, don't forget, had Donald Trump Jr. a couple of years ago, who used to scream at rallies, F your pronouns. He actually used the full F word. We're not going to.
Well, they want teachers to be fined or prosecuted if they use the correct pronouns.
They want patriotic education taught. Whitewashing history related to race, gender, sexism, homophobia, and all these injustices.
Well, and Randy Weingarten, of course, the out head of the teachers union, is defending teachers and is appalled by all this. But now Trump is about to announce another executive order, which may end the Department of Education altogether, but meanwhile is going to allow federal funds to be used just willy-nilly to fund religious education.
Right, and almost all civil rights lawsuits from the Department of Justice have been dropped.
Yes.
If they're, except if you're a religious organization that claims that you're being discriminated against.
And Libs of TikTok is purposely ginning up outrage at everybody so that they can promote violence across the country in schools and making accusations against what were previously considered norms. They want to eliminate secular education, and they want to eliminate and deny and hide accurate history, whether on any basis.
It is all on the internet and, of course, on this show. But Trump is telling the Department of Justice to prosecute teachers who support trans or non-binary students under laws what he calls banning sexual exploitation of minors and practicing medicine without a license.
See, they're just twisting everything. This is, discrimination is making a white kid feel bad, which, of course, is not the point of anybody anywhere.
And, the White House press secretary, this Caroline Leavitt kid, says that, the possibility that federal spending is going to transgender people is one of the motivating factors behind the freeze on federal grants and loans, which was stopped by the courts.
More than 50 employees of the Department of Education officials have been suspended because they are DEI adjacent.
Right.
But there is some fight back in the schools, which is encouraging. Some school systems are refusing to play by these new rules.
Yep.
Montgomery County, Maryland will continue to respect gender identity. And schools are traditionally under local control, so they have a little more power to fight back.
The CDC has instructed its scientists to retract or pause the publication of any research manuscript that contains forbidden terms. Gender, transgender, pregnant person, pregnant people, LGBT, transsexual, non-binary, assigned male at birth, assigned female at birth, biologically male, biologically female, according to an email over there. And they're scrubbing all the DEI policies everywhere. And that is catching up a lot of important HIV information on their websites and things, which is going to lead to a lot of harm.
Meanwhile, GLSEN is reorganizing in the face of all these attacks. And I think, and so is HRC. Their contributions seem to have fallen, and they are having to let people go, and they're feeling it.
Well, look, we're going to bring our efforts to the groups that are really doing things and making things happen. And I'll just offer what I think really needs to happen at this point. We have to do what the Tea Party did. They got outraged by having a black president, and so they seized on the Affordable Care Act, and they would go to town meetings all across the country and raise hell and be obnoxious and everything like that. We have to go into these Republican swing districts and really raise hell. It's a way of educating people, and it's a way of putting them on notice that we know what's going on.
The Tea Party was horrendous. They've elected a lot of people, but we still have the Affordable Care Act.
We do, and yes, but I mean, that is how one of the ways they ended up, winning the midterms in 20.
I'm just saying that we need better targets than that and better
but
better
if we don't
action.
take back political power, we can't do any of this. So certainly winning the midterms is important, but it's also putting these swing district Republicans on notice. If you vote for all this Republican crap in lockstep, we're going after you.
Well, we're not nearly as scary as Trump and his henchmen are, clearly, because they have just folded in the face of that. So we're going to have to come up with better strategies
I'm open to
or
suggestions.
threats.
Well, let's talking about what's happening.
You think Trump is paying any attention to politics? He's just brute force.
Right.
Brute force.
Yes, I understand.
I don't see us doing that, but we can't be naive about this. This is one of the problems with the Democrats. They're acting like business as usual.
Well,
And they're getting nothing done.
Hakeem Jeffries did order all of his members to hold town meetings within the next week in their districts and get the heat from people and listen to what people are saying.
Oh, I hope so.
But I'm not relying on Democrats. We got to rely on people who are even unaffiliated who are being hurt by these things. Folks, this is a 2-page spread in the New York Times. You can't read it. Fine print, hundreds of groups that are going to be cut, hundreds of programs that are going to be cut under this budget reconciliation bill that the Republicans intend to do. It's a giveaway to the rich, and then you're going to get screwed. That's what it's about. That's what they're doing.
You're seeing all these headlines, and we're bringing you these headlines, but what they're really doing behind the scenes is writing this bill that is going to get rid of all this stuff.
Yes.
And it's going to pass. It doesn't need to pass a filibuster in the Senate because it's all going to be in one bill.
That's why you have to peel off a couple of Republicans. I know you don't think it's possible.
I don't.
You have to peel off a couple of Republicans. They only need a majority in the Senate. The Senate has shown it's absolutely supine.
We thought we could beat Bobby Kennedy. No. We thought we could beat Tulsi Gabbard. No. We thought we could beat any number of these people, and we're just not. And then you have this this fool. Can we go to Darren Beatty or Beatty?
Well, I thought we should start with what's going on with TransCare because that's really immediate.
Yes, it is.
Now, as we said at the top of the show, some of the blue state hospitals are saying you're going to cut our federal funding, which means Medicare and Medicaid and grants. And if we do trans-affirming care for youth, and now they're defining youth as under 19, not just under 18, which is a big deal, then we're not going to provide the care. NYU Langone is a hospital that I've been to many times. They're cutting it. So there was a large demonstration there, and one of the big speakers, there were literally hundreds of people at this demonstration at NYU Langone, led by Cynthia Nixon.
And I'm here as a lifelong New Yorker.
Yeah.
And I'm here as a person who loves my city and my state. And I am here as actually a resident of Kips Bay. I live just a few blocks over there. And NYU is my hospital. Most importantly, I am here today as the mother of a proud trans man.
Yeah.
I am here today as the aunt of a proud trans man. My best friend's kid is trans, and my kid's best friend is trans. My wife and I, our lives are filled with the most amazing, beautiful, brave trans people, young and old, but especially young. My trans kid had his top surgery at NYU a number of years ago. His doctors were fantastic. His surgeon was the best we could have imagined. And the idea that this city is filled with young people who thought they had a place to go where they could receive the highest care, and that place has now been shut to them, sickens me to my core.
My name is Freya. I am 16 years old. I have been on estrogen since I was 14, and I know that I'm very privileged to be able to say that. But in the same breath, I can say that I am scared for myself, for my own health care, and for all of the other people like me. And I have one message to my kinfolk, because that's what we are. All the people who are here and are like me and are showing up willing to fight for our own rights or the rights of the people that we love and care about, don't let them win.
Don't let them win. That's the watchword.
So New York State Attorney General Letitia James, who you may remember from various Trump prosecutions, has stood up and said, look, the federal government may be threatening your funding as a hospital, but there are laws in New York State, and you are required to treat people without discrimination.
Right. And don't forget, this whole issue of trans youth care was already gone before the Supreme Court, and we are awaiting the decision. A lot of people don't think we have much of a chance. Some people think we do. This was argued by Chase Strangio of the ACLU, and of course they're in court about this federal thing as well. And there were other. Just show you we didn't show you the whole crowd. There was some pictures there of the crowd at NYU Langone, which is right over, not far from here, over there on the east side in the 30s, and a lot of people turned out. And there's more, and there's going to be a big demonstration this Saturday at 1 p.m. in Union Square, New York. 1 p.m. in Union Square. Rise up for trans youth. We're going to be there. We hope to see you there.
All right. And it's not just in New York. Hospitals in Colorado and Washington, D.C. and L.A. and Virginia have canceled trans care because of the threat from the federal government.
And the Denver hospital acknowledged that the order would affect the mental health of trans youth, and their parents would continue to receive primary and behavioral care, but they're not going to treat them. And, you know, there's this awful story, trigger warning here. A patient at Syracuse VA Medical Center died by an apparent suicide outside the top of the hospital's parking garage on Monday. Witnesses said the person was wrapped in a body-length transgender pride flag, and that veteran had been discharged from this psychiatric unit on January 21st. It's just, you know, it reminds me of the early days of the AIDS crisis when people would get a diagnosis and they would take their lives. I mean, you know, it's just horrible.
The cruelty of Trump and his henchmen to go after our people and us and everybody like this is just unspeakable.
This is all Elon Musk's revenge on his trans daughter.
Yes, it is. And what is it? Oh, he says that USAID is a criminal operation. How is that? Yeah. I keep waiting for some explanation.
Oh, the number of lives that are going to be lost because USAID, which is our foreign aid thing, which started under Jack Kennedy as president, who are going to die immediately because they're not going to be getting life-saving medications and other services, is just horrendous. And, you know, so we're turning the world over to Russia and China, but of course, that's what Trump wants.
Yeah. So, yes, you mentioned earlier, the CDC website deleted all HIV information, gender ideology information, disease information. Some of it has now been restored. It's going back and forth. They do these sweeping things, and then it gets pushed back, and it's too confusing for everybody. Like USAID cut off all things, and then they said they restored them, but in fact, all the clinics are still closed
laid off everybody.
around the world. Good news: a judge has ruled for several trans women who were threatened with being moved from women's prisons to men's prisons, and said, no, you can't do that.
A national injunction against that.
Yeah.
And by the way, with all this, what the hospitals are doing, at least as we tape, Massachusetts General Brigham, said they're not going to stop providing these services.
And University Hospital in Brooklyn. So check with your own care providers and check every minute because it changes every minute.
But the U.S. Catholic bishops were thrilled with this order from Trump.
Yeah. Well, there are organizations that are there to help, and here are a few of them. The Trevor Project is still very open for business to take your calls and try to help. PFLAG is really active on this.
And they're the big group suing over this order.
Right.
Our parents.
Trans Lifeline, which is also a help line. The ACLU is suing and getting very activated in this. Advocates for Trans Equality, inclusive therapists. There are organizations out there.
I did ask the question on the listserv that we're on, where we're talking about this. We really need providers who can fill in these services when the hospitals don't. Outside, whether in clinics, they're not affiliated with hospitals. Yeah,
but some of this is surgery, so you can't really take that to your...
But the main thing is hormones and those kinds of treatments. Yes. Surgery is rare.
I talked to a friend yesterday who is a surgeon who does do trans surgery, and she and her hospital are still doing it. And then I read in the news that they stopped. So I'm not sure she knows. The right hand knows what the left hand is doing. So it's very confusing.
And then let's talk about President Elon Musk. We'll put up the slide again. Elon Musk giving the Nazi salute. And remember, he did that twice. This is a coup, the takeover of federal government infrastructure. Especially at the Treasury Department, where they bring in these kids to rewire everything, recode everything. Nobody knows what's going on. There is absolutely no accountability. Look at this protest on a highway in New Jersey. Musk raided the Treasury and got all your information, is getting all your personal information. And this is what they're going to use to shut you down or anybody they don't like down.
It's unbelievable. And Scott Bessent, our out gay Treasury Secretary, is the one who opened the door for them.
Absolutely.
Come on in.
He gave up all his power. It used to be a very important post, but there is no important post anymore other than Elon Musk. And,
because all Trump really cares about is opening a resort in Gaza and making money and being friendly with whoever will be friendly with him.
By the way, because Marco Rubio, who's the Secretary of State, said, well, we're going to keep some of the USAID programs. The person he put in charge of it is Peter Morocco, he's a destroyer now in charge of it.
Yep.
He was present at the January 6th riot. These are the people that are in charge of things now. The State Department's blocking new passports for trans Americans. Can't have an X thing anymore on your. State Department fired 60 contractors working for its Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor Bureau. And these were mostly technical and area experts who senior officials relied on for the day-to-day work.
The State Department has scrubbed all trans travel info from its website.
First they scrubbed everything, LGBTQ. Then they actually put the LGB back.
Yeah.
But not the trans.
Senator Ben Schatz, Hawaii?
Yes.
Is finally saying, hey, wait a minute, I know how this works. I'm going to put a hold on everybody's nominations because you remember Tommy Tuberville did that with all the generals?
The Alabama guy. You can put a hold on it. You can grind the Senate to a halt. And that is the kind of stuff we need to happen at this point.
Well, you can, but then there are the rogues who are running this joint who will just put people in willy-nilly as temporary. They're not waiting for people to get confirmed. They're just putting them in the seat.
That's true.
And doing things.
That's true.
All right. So Transportation Department is now being run by
Sean Duffy.
To get federal funds from the Transportation Department, you must now emphasize protecting heterosexual marriage and having children.
Because they need it more.
Yes. It's like the old Mary Tyler Moore episode where her boss said, I'm giving your colleague a raise because he has a family.
Right.
And she said, what the hell do you...
That went on for generations.
Yeah. Well, they want to cut women out of jobs. They want to cut women out of any control of finances. They want men to be in charge.
Men. At the acting undersecretary, you talk about acting, because this guy has not been confirmed to anything, Darren Beatty. He's been appointed acting undersecretary of state for public diplomacy. There he is at one of those right-wing conferences. And
Charming.
He tweeted in last October, competent white men must be in charge if you want things to work.
Can we find any?
Please.
Coddling women and minorities is demoralizing competent white men. White supremacists should be in charge of everything.
Well, that's, we're going to get to this whole, DEI thing, but that's one of the things that J.D. Vance is saying these days.
Yes.
It's not just that helicopter that crashed in might have had a DEI hire or affirmative action hire. It's that white men have to work around these people, and it's demoralizing for them.
Yes. Well, and the immediate rumor was that a trans woman had been at the helm of the helicopter, and so the woman they had named had to come out and say, "Oh, I'm alive. I wasn't in the helicopter."
Well, that was, again, it was now a week ago after we taped. Trump going out after the crash and blaming the whole thing on DEI. He stood there while the bodies were still being fished out of the water, and he brings along saying, "We're going to hire on competence," and he brings along J.D. Vance, who was not even a complete first-term senator, who's now made vice president of the United States, and Hegseth, the most unqualified person to be elevated to Secretary of Defense in history. And then he has the nerve,
So
this is exhausting.
It is. It's exhausting for us. We spend our week accumulating this information and reading through all this stuff. We're up till midnight, 1 a.m. just making notes on all this after spending all day doing it. It is
Overwhelming.
A flood of, the water that Trump turned on in Northern California and almost flooded the cities in the state. And it was no good for, he said he was doing it to make water available for the fires. Well, that's how it feels with all this information coming at us all day.
Yeah.
Here's one thing, though, that may have a silver lining. The new head of the Federal Communications Commission, Brendan Carr, he's targeting PBS and NPR because he says their funders' ads are really like advertisements instead of just underwriter notices. He's right.
Stop it.
Well, come on. Those things, they go on and on. They are ads.
All right. And then there's the whole birthright citizenship thing. Now, you've heard about this, and of course, a judge just shut it down. You can't, it's in the Constitution. You can't stop that. But in writing this executive order about protecting the meaning and value of American citizenship, it would exclude two categories of U.S.-born infants from the right to citizenship: infants born to a mother who is unlawfully in the country and a father who's not a citizen, and infants born to a mother who is authorized to be in the country for a temporary time. But it goes on to define mother and father as male and female biological progenitors, which disregards a lot of same-sex, transgender, or non-binary parents.
You have to be a heterosexual couple to give birth to a child who then has any right to citizenship. This is how they're trimming around the edges. They're not going to get away with it. A judge has blocked their redefinition of birthright citizenship. But so we're getting some good court decisions on this. We're getting some activity from the interest groups that are bringing lawsuits. We're getting demonstrations in the street. But how much of this is going to go up to the Supreme Court and get turned around in Trump's favor?
Well, look, we don't have the protection from Congress. You have to remember, we remember, even when there was a Democratic president who had a Democratic Congress, there were Democrats who would say, "No, Mr. President, we can't do it that way." There would be some, you were protective of your power in the checks and balances system.
All gone.
It's all gone.
Yep. But happy to say that lawyers and staff at the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission are seeing the light. They are furious at what's happening and the attempts to cut back on their support of minority populations, and they're speaking up and fighting back there at the EEOC.
They told this woman who was installed as the acting chair, Andrea Lucas, that settled law, the Bostock decision from the Supreme Court, a good decision we got from them, protecting people on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity in employment, is covered under the sex category at least. So you've got to take these cases. It is the law.
Well, you know, I hear that and I think, okay, that's the rational world, but we're not living in the rational world anymore.
No.
The Greater Houston LGBT Chamber of Commerce has an annual meeting at the Federal Reserve Bank. Well, now they've been told they can't meet at the Federal Reserve Bank because they are too DEI affiliated, and so they're going to be barred from meeting at the Federal Reserve Bank. They're going to sue, but this is the kind of thing that's happening. There is no rationale to any of this.
Now, then there was DOJ, Department of Justice Pride, who no longer has any pride. Oh, they say we're disbanding because we're afraid for our jobs. And, you know, in other departments, I think at the State Department and some other places, they've said, you won't let us have a meeting here. You won't let us, be recognized by you. We can organize outside the thing and
we can go down to the Applebee's. We
and
can
have
meet.
a support group and fund it ourselves.
Yes,
that's what you have to do.
But if you want to know if you're welcome here in the government office, look at the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia, where you will see people painting over the wall that has words like fairness, diversity, integrity, respect, and compassion on the mural. That's gone. All gone.
All gone. Now, FBI agents are suing to protect their identities because Trump wants to expose anybody who touched any case related to him.
But the best FBI story is that they put in a director and an assistant director, but they screwed it up and reversed them, so that the assistant is now the director of the FBI until they get Kash Patel approved. Bobby Driscoll is running the FBI, and he is a good guy, and he is trying to stop all of this, and he is refusing to hand over names, and he is fighting back.
James Dennehy, the highly respected leader of the most important field bureau of the FBI, says that the FBI was in a battle of our own, and the Society of Former Special Agents, which represent thousands of retirees, called the forced resignations illegal actions that violated civil service laws. They've always wanted to get rid of agents. Trump especially, he went after all these people who went after him. And, people fought back and they won.
Well, keep your eye on Driscoll because he's the FBI hero at the moment.
All right. So DOJ.
Well, while you look for what's next, I will interpolate a little J.D. Vance moment and notice that the Army of God, charismatic Christians, are celebrating the victory of muscular religions over demonic secularists. Theocracy is coming to the United States, according to them.
Yeah, well, that's the idea.
Yes, and J.D. Vance is quoting a guy named Jack Posobiec, who wrote a book called Unhumans, and says opponents are unhumans trying to undo civilization, and they must be crushed. That's us. Democracy has never protected innocence from the unhumans. It's time to stop playing by the rules. They won't. The left doesn't understand the growing power of these charismatic Christians, and God's plan is Trump.
And part of the plan is the destruction of mainstream media. Pete Hegseth kicked out all the liberal legacy media outlets out of the Pentagon press offices and is substituting right-wing media except for
We haven't been invited.
Politico. So that's what and of course he describes himself as a Christian warrior.
Well, that's the thing. There are so many levels to this, and one of them is that there is a very large part of this scheme who want to bring this muscular Christianity to bear.
In a country that is increasingly abandoning organized religion.
It's insane.
Yeah.
How are we letting these very small parts of the population have so much power?
We tried to warn you that this was a madman who would do things like this. Of course, don't forget, it's the guy who said, "Oh, I don't know anything about Project 2025," and of course they're all
liars.
That is the total blueprint for what is happening.
Yes.
But I guess it was too complicated for some people to understand.
Well, I have to admit to continuing frustration by those who say, I can't deal with it, I can't watch it, I turn it off,
No.
I can't listen. Look, we're not telling you have to go out in the streets and get arrested, but we do think it would behoove you to pay attention to what is happening a little bit every day.
Before
just
you
a
get run
little
over.
bit. Yeah, because if you think you're immune and life will just go on, I wish you well.
There's a post that says, you wonder what it was like in Germany when all this was happening, and and here it is.
This is what
it's like.
Yes.
This is what it was like in 1932.
Hitler was handed power and the government.
And then he just consolidated it very quickly,
Yep.
and that is Trump's model.
And everybody just ignored it, and he took over.
And by the way, there was a directive to all federal agencies pausing all activities around what they call special observances, including Black History Month, which we celebrate and we are in. They can't stop us. Women's History Month, Holocaust Day of Remembrance, Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage, LGBTQ Pride, Women's Equality Day, Hispanic Disability Awareness, American Indian Heritage, all in the service of, ending radical and wasteful DEI. But the point is, you can still celebrate these things, even if you work for these agencies.
The White House shut down the Spanish language version of their website. They shut it down.
All right.
And of course, yes, Trump blamed the air crash on DEI. Buttigieg talk back. That you want a model for talking back? Look at Buttigieg's response to Trump blaming the American helicopter crash on that.
Okay, and of course, they're as I said, they're getting rid of all this research that was done on these issues. So people at Harvard and all these other places are trying to save these pages. This is basic research that they need to do their work, and they're trying to save them and archive them elsewhere.
The radical white men shutting down all these platforms and the research and everything else say radical and wasteful DEI must be canceled.
Yeah. The National Park Service website was scrubbed of historic sites related to the Stonewall Uprising, the internment of Japanese Americans, and the Tuskegee Airmen. Only the Tuskegee Airmen was restored after an uproar. Where's our uproar? They're probably going to want to take away the historic designation for Stonewall.
By the time you hear this, Trump will have issued another order just banning trans women from women's sports. How does he have the power to do that?
He doesn't have a lot of these powers, and that's why we're in court over it.
Well, now Nancy Mace and Lauren Boebert and their acolytes all over the country are following sort of butch cis women into restrooms to accuse them of being trans women, and the women are saying, "Excuse me, first of all, why are you going after trans women? But second of all, we're not," and they're having to apologize. But it's a vigilante operation that is being promoted,
and it's not just by them; it's all over the country. Because now, people on the right who go to these, who watch Fox News, who are on these right-wing websites, they're on the lookout for butch women everywhere, and accusing them of being men. as happened in the Olympics with
Heaven
that boxer,
forbid.
that
Yes.
Italian boxer.
And all of this is being done under great cloaks of secrecy, as you say, no transparency. No one knows what's going on until they make these outrageous pronouncements.
Can we give them a little bit of good news? Olympia,
please.
Washington is officially the first sanctuary city for LGBTQ people in Washington state. The city council approved it unanimously. And, it's mandating equal and dignified treatment under the law, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression.
As they say, I did not have Olympia, Washington on my bingo card as first for a sanctuary city, the capital of Washington state. And, thank you, Olympia, Washington. In Texas, Equality Texas, in league with GLAAD, has produced 3 30-second ads that they're running in cities around Texas of trans people speaking. This one is by someone named Ashton, because Governor Abbott is, of course, taking all this and just running with a bit between his teeth. So let's look at Ashton.
Cable news should not be the first place you see a transgender person. I'm a regular dude. I love hiking, I love hanging out with my friends, and I happen to be transgender.
When Ashton told me he was transgender, I didn't know what to do. I just knew that I loved him unconditionally, and I'm honored to be his dad.
I'm here because I know there are more loving people in the world than there is hate. We all have the right to be ourselves without fear. Help us share this story.
Well, thanks for that.
So clear, so simple. Where is the threat there? Why are we doing this national pogrom of trans people?
Well, now that Cardinal Wilton Gregory is no longer has the Washington, D.C., seat, he spoke to members of the LGBTQ community at Holy Trinity Catholic Church in January, and he made a sort of an apology. I've been troubled by the loss of Catholics. I apologize for my own failure to emulate Christ's compassion. The way we have treated our LGBTQ brothers and sisters has brought them tears and too many of us disgrace, and I apologize. And he goes on and on and on and on. Great. What he does not say is what we teach about homosexuality is evil and wrong. That, gay love is good. That's what they can't say. That's the problem.
No, he apologized for his lack of courage. I always think that's too little, too late. When people apologize like that, I think, the entire world was telling you were wrong, and yet you stood by it until now when you no longer have power.
Quick story. He was before he was in Washington, he was the former president of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, and he presided over the sex abuse conference of the bishops in about 2012 or something, and I was sent by The Voice to cover it. So there were 700 press there. He called on me as the first questioner at each press conference, and very few questions. And I
Maybe he had a crush on you, Andy.
I asked these very hard questions, and when whoever was asked the question got the answer he liked, he'd sit there and go, "Oh, this is good. This is what I wanted." So he's sort of like, he sympathizes, but he's, as you say,
chicken.
Right.
You know what the right thing is. It doesn't take that much to do the right thing. In Minnesota, Target is dropping its DEI principles and its membership in the HRC corporate equality index. But in reaction to that, Twin Cities Pride dropped them as a sponsor of their events, kicked them out, raised twice as much money in 24 hours as Target had been giving them, but issued a conciliatory statement hoping they'll see the light and grow a spine.
In Mississippi, Democratic State Senator Bradford Blackman introduced the Contraception Begins at Erection Act to the legislature. It would make it a criminal offense for anyone in Mississippi to discharge genetic material without the intent to fertilize an embryo. Now that's a satire, and it's not the first time it's happened, but he's been receiving death threats, though the responses from women have been 80% positive.
See if we can just get those women organized to take power.
Well, talk about women being organized. How about Norma Jennings? She was sworn in Brooklyn as New York's first black LGBTQ civil judge, accompanied by her wife there in the red, Judge Jenny. No, her name is Judge Juliet Howard, and their 2 sons are there.
The shocking thing is that she's the first. Come on, it's 2025.
Civil court judge. We've had. She's the first black LGBTQ.
I get it.
We had a gay civil court judge in the 1970s. For
I
God's
know.
sakes.
That's why I can't believe this. But my hero this week is U.S. Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman, Democrat of New Jersey, who is an ally speaking up for LGBTQ, offering a resolution in the U.S. House praising groups from ACT UP to the Rustin Center to Garden State Equality. She's a big supporter of Sarah McBride, the out trans representative from Delaware. She is criticizing Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and the craven Republicans. She is speaking up in the House.
Okay, we need all Democrats to speak. We need all people to speak up.
Yeah.
In suburban Nassau County, here's some more good news. The NYCLU just got the racially gerrymandered county legislative maps thrown out, and they have to be redrawn.
And I guess it's good news from North Carolina, where that heinous Mark Robinson, the lieutenant governor who was going to run and was nailed for being a racist, Nazi, homophobe.
Literally.
Yes, has dropped his suit against CNN, I guess.
And it's nice to see that at 60 Minutes, Paramount, the parent company, wants to settle with the Trump people over the editing of a 60 Minutes interview with Harris, Vice President Harris. But the producer at 60 Minutes says, I am not going to apologize no matter what you settle.
Okay.
All right. Okay. All right.
News? Oh, okay. So in New Orleans, bad news. The Catholic Archbishop in New Orleans, has fired food bank executives in the city because they refused to turn over $16 million to help pay settlements that the church is liable for child sexual abuse.
Well, Cardinal Dolan, when he was in Milwaukee, used the fund from the cemeteries to pay off those things.
Well, at least that's dead people. But food bank money going to pay off sexual abuse claims?
You want to do some crime stories or no?
Well, we have some people we've lost. Go ahead.
Actually, I was going to do, these are sort of... 2 men were accused of tying up and killing a 63-year-old gay man in his basement apartment. They happened to be immigrants from Venezuela and Ecuador, which should get them on the right-wing sites. But they took us all his stuff. One of the guys had an ankle monitor on. That's how they found him, for Christ's sake. These are idiots. But they killed this guy. Okay. And then Swevin Waterman, a 40-year-old senior custodian at University of California, Berkeley, has been sentenced to 11 years in prison for the March 2023 murder of Curtis Marsh, a 53-year-old black singer and hairstylist who went under the stage name Tory Monroe. He accepted a plea deal. Tory was a member of the Oakland Gay Men's Chorus.
All right, let's do some obits. Dick Button died at 95. He had a longtime partner, Dennis Grimaldi, and 2 kids.
Unmentioned by the New York Times.
Well, at first. In a later edition, they mentioned it, but the first mention, no, nothing. I'm trying to remember how out he was.
Well, not especially, but I'll tell you. I'm 71 years old. He dies at the age of 95. Growing up, listening to him do commentary at the Olympics, which could be very acerbic. I said I was a kid, and this is a homosexual. This is a gay man.
He was a fearless, groundbreaking skater. He was known for having invented all sorts of moves, and fearless as an ABC commentator.
Oh my God! I'm going to link to some of his commentary. It's so funny.
Yes. I'm trying to remember. I think I met him briefly. I did a skating event for ABC years ago. Production, not skating. And in 1978, this is when it really became clear. In 1978, he was assaulted in the Ramble, which is the gay cruising area in Central Park.
It made the front page of the papers. They tried to act like, oh, it was a random attack, but of course, we all knew.
Of course.
That's why he was there. He was, he said he was walking his dog at night. Nobody does that.
3 kids got arrested and convicted.
But come on, he won 2 Olympic gold medals, 1948 and 52, 5 world championships, 2 as a junior, 9 U.S. championships. He was a tremendous.
And we have some tape.
Yeah.
That's another victory for a skating star from the Western Hemisphere. He's Dick Button of Englewood, New Jersey. Only 18 years old, he's rated the greatest freestyle figure skater in the world.
If I could do it again, I'd certainly try my very hardest to win it all over again for the USA.
I never remember a time I did not like skating. There was an excitement about the freedom of it, the ability to move. It was like flying. Something magical happened with it, and it's never gone away.
Fools.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Oh, no. Then we lost Robert Cromie, an Episcopal priest and pre-Stonewall ally of our community. Passed away January 14th at an assisted living facility in San Francisco. He defied
93 years old.
He defied the church by performing wedding ceremonies for gay couples in the 1960s.
Was famous for a 1963 pro-gay sermon.
When there was a crackdown on a gay meeting and something that included some of them. There's a clipping there. They had a big press conference saying, stop treating people this badly this way.
He marched with Martin Luther King. He supported Cesar Chavez. He was just a great, great progressive.
Martin Luther King and everything.
We also lost Ruby Juster at 101. She was a co-creator of the Sage Women's Dance, which was a really groundbreaking event for women to come together here in the city.
And you will know the work of David Edward Byrd, a graphic artist, designer, illustrator, and painter. There he is with his graphic for Follies, the musical. But he did all these albums for the Grateful Dead and Jimi Hendrix and Iron Butterfly, Jefferson Airplane.
All your favorites.
Well, but he also did Broadway musicals, Follies, Godspell, The Survival of St. Joan, Jesus Christ Superstar, Little Shop of Horrors. But there's the other thing that he did. This is a closet door. That is the first issue of Christopher Street magazine, a gay magazine. He did that as well.
Okay. International news?
All I have is this Norwegian cyclist, Soren Warren Skold, who refuses now to race in Saudi Arabia because of their anti-gay and anti-woman stuff.
And I can't remember whether we did this last week, but Russia is assembling an electronic registry of LGBTQ, coming soon to the United States, no doubt.
And in health news, the U.S. public health officials from the CDC have been told to stop working with the World Health Organization. So in place of DEI, the message is die, die, die. I've been waiting to say that because that's exactly what is going to happen.
So clever.
I mean,
Andy.
come on.
Yeah.
They're trying to stop outbreaks of bird flu and Marburg virus and Mpox, all these things. Come on.
Waste of time.
We're doomed.
Yeah. Well, we always have been, but we may be galloping rather than walking towards
the world's going to be underwater in 2100 anyway.
Entertainment news.
Well, Grammys.
Sure. Chappell Roan won a Grammy for Best New Artist, Performer.
She gave a great speech about, I'm young and I was denied health care by my label. And
I felt out of place when I was growing up because I was gay.
Yep. Billie Eilish opened the show. Billie is a native Angelino. Standing alongside her brother.
Cynthia Erivo was part of the tribute to Quincy Jones. Cynthia is out, but also a big part of the tribute to Quincy Jones was Janelle Monáe, one of our favorites, who did this takeoff on Michael Jackson a little drag performance for the Grammys.
And Lady Gaga took the mic and said, "Trans people are not invisible. Trans people deserve love. The queer community deserves to be lifted up," and got a big hand.
Queen Latifah, who, has been out now for a few years, honored Alicia Keys. We were just everywhere in the Grammys, especially as the women. Charlie XCX, I thought, did the sort of closing big number, and she was quite spectacular. It was a great number. And Sabrina Carpenter was adorable. That's all I have to say about her.
Out WNBA veteran Brittany Griner is signing a one-year deal with the Atlanta Dream after all those 11 seasons with the Phoenix Mercury. So free agency has been everything I wanted it to be, she said. I was able to find where I wanted to go.
And Karla Sofia Gascon has really just gotten herself in too much trouble with her ugly statements, the tweets that have surfaced that were racist and homophobic and everything else.
They were.
The voting is still open for the Oscars, which is bad news for her.
But it was anti-Islamic and everything, get these people out of the country. Now, look, we criticize organized religion here, but we don't say a group of people should be discriminated against. We want the religions to stop teaching this crap.
And she's going back and forth. When they surfaced, she apologized, but then she said she was the subject of a smear campaign.
Yeah,
and
but,
she's just not being very hip about all of this.
One of them. I do not understand why everyone's making a world war against Hitler. He simply had his opinion of Jews. Well, that's how the world works. I mean, Who
does she think she is, J.D. Vance?
It's awful.
It is
and
awful.
We like the movie.
We still like the movie, but man, this is not good.
Out Amber Ruffin, the comedian, is going to headline the Washington Correspondents' Dinner on April 26th. I can't imagine that Trump will go.
Well, she was asked whether Trump would come. She said, "I hope not."
She writes for Late Night with Seth Meyers.
And she's doing the show on CNN with Joe Wood Jr.
Yeah.
Is that who it is? It's a newsy
Roy
takeover.
Roy Wood Jr.
Thank you. It's
Have I got
amusing.
news for you?
Yeah, it's
but
good.
she also won the Tony for the best book of a musical at Some Like It Hot.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hadn't realized that. She co-wrote it.
All right.
And then
you saw English, the play. What'd you think?
This is kind of a quiet play. It's a group of Iranian women and one guy who are in Iran trying to learn English. And all I will say is it won the Pulitzer Prize, and it's a very thoughtful play.
Okay. And one of the big hits at Sundance at the film festival is a new film with Ben Whishaw playing Peter Hujar. Peter Hujar's Day, directed by Ira Sachs, who is a longtime independent filmmaker. And that got a lot of attention. So
we're out of time and out of breath.
And out of patience. But we'll be in Union Square on Saturday.
At 1 o'clock.
Okay.
In New York.
See you there. Bye.